see what happened. It was just then that the chief butler had seen a chance to get a little glory for himself by mentioning Joseph. While the magician and the wise men were standing around trying to think up some explanation of Pharaoh's dream, he had told the king of what had happened to him in the prison 2 years before, and how Joseph's interpretation of his dream and the chief baker's dream had turned out exactly right. Now, now this butler, okay, trying to get a little chance, glory for himself, he told Pharaoh that when he was in jail, he was in prison, and how Joseph he was able to interpret his dream. And exactly same thing happened with both of them, right? As we know that the chief baker he was killed, and then butler he was replaced again for his job. Okay. Now Pharaoh had been interested and anxious to have his own dream explained, has sent for Joseph. Now Pharaoh is anxious, okay, he is in trouble, his mind is troubled, he is not in peace. And the dream he saw, 2 times he saw, and he is not able to interpret it. And nobody in his kingdom, in his place, in his palace, is able to interpret that dream. So that for that only he asked Joseph. Okay? And now the great door into spacious throne room opened, and Joseph was led in. Pharaoh was seated on his golden throne with gorgeously dressed officers and other servants about him. It was a marvelous sight to Joseph after all the years he had spent in the drab and dirty prison. All those years he was spending time in prison, right? And after a long time now he is there. Okay, and he might have felt marvelous and happy also, and little troubled also might be, right? Why he has been called. So bowing low to Pharaoh, he waited respectfully to find out. He might have said, "My lord, my majesty," he might have said, okay. And then why he had been summoned so suddenly. "I have a dream, said Pharaoh, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. It is not in me." Then Pharaoh he says that I dreamt, okay, and I'm not able to interpret, and nobody, my wise men, wise people, they are also not able to interpret it. So please, can you just interpret my dream? I heard about you. This time. Then Joseph he said, see what Joseph is saying, okay? Very nice thing, okay? He says, "It is not in me." Joseph is not proud that he is able to interpret, but then what he says, "It is not in me," said Joseph humbly. "God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace." See, okay, he is not taking the praise for himself. Okay, he is telling God, he gave us wisdom to interpret that. Okay, then that's what he says. Then Pharaoh told him about 2 dreams he had. One was about 7 lean cows that ate up 7 fat cows, and another about 7 withered ears of corn that ate up 7 good ears. Joseph understood at once. Okay, and in a few words, he told Pharaoh just what the dream meant. Both dreams, he said, had the same meaning. Both the dreams had same meaning. Okay, and were sent by God to warn Pharaoh of the coming of great famine. Now, okay, after 7 years, there is going to be a great famine. Lack of food, lack of water, there will be no harvesting. Okay. There would be 7 years of plenty and with wonderful harvest and lot of grains and other food stuff. But after there would be 7 years of the worst famine Egypt had ever seen. So for 7 years they will have richest amount of grain and all those food stuff. But after the 7 years pass, okay, after the 7 years, what will happen? The famine will start, and the worst they had ever seen. Okay. Now therefore said Joseph. Now Joseph is telling to Pharaoh, "Let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt, and let him appoint officers over the land, and let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities, and that food shall be restored to the land against the 7 years of famine." Pharaoh was greatly impressed not only by the interpretation of his dream, but by the sound of advice from the fine young man. Okay, Pharaoh was amazed. He was impressed the way Joseph is telling the plan. Okay, that for 7 years, when there will be a full amount of harvesting, let you set up the wise man and let them store the food for 7 years. Okay, for 7 years famine. And the Pharaoh was really impressed by this fine young man, Joseph. Okay, and then now what's Pharaoh did? Let's see. Men before him, turning to his counselor, he said, "Can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of God is?" Then Pharaoh said, "Can we find such a fine man in whom the Spirit of God is?" He said. When he believes that God is with him. Okay, Pharaoh, he believes that. Okay. So Joseph was chosen. Now, you can see now from the dungeon to the throne, how the God led him from the prison. Right? He was dirty, the prison was dirty, he was stained. Now he has, okay, now he will be in the throne now. Let's see. So Joseph was chosen to be ruler over all the land of Egypt. Only in the throne, said Pharaoh, will I be a great than thou. So he will be ruling all over, only in the throne Pharaoh will be there. Now Pharaoh, what he did, and Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, okay, and put a gold chain about his neck, and he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had, and they carried before him bowed the knee. If only his brothers would have seen him now, they had sold him as a slave, thinking to hurt and humble him. And here he was, riding through Egypt's cities in the royal chariot, with everybody bowing before him. Thus does God work for those who love and trust him, defeating the plans of their enemies and making everything come out right in the end. Should you ever find yourself in a dungeon of some sort of never fear. Be faithful and be true. For somewhere beyond is a palace and a throne, and God will lead you there. His brothers, right, they sold him, right? They wanted to hurt him. But then God had a plan, great plan. Even Joseph could not understand that, right? And now he is in Egypt, riding in second chariot of Pharaoh, okay? And everybody is bowing him. Okay, now he has become a chief minister, the ruler of Egypt, okay? And we cannot understand sometimes God's plan. Sometimes we might go through a worse time. So whenever you find yourself in a prison of some sort of problem, always be true, always be faithful to God, and God is going to help you. Okay, sometimes we might feel difficult, but God has, okay, God thinking is beyond our thinking. Okay, we cannot just think. Okay, and God will lead you to that palace. Okay, so God bless you all with this small story. Okay, then we'll continue next chapter next week. Okay, we'll correct after it. Okay, correct. बनाया फूलों को किसने बनाया फूलों को ईश्वर स्वर्ग में है किसने बनाया मछलियों को किसने बनाया मछलियों को ईश्वर स्वर्ग में है किसने बनाया तितलियों को किसने बनाया तितलियों को ईश्वर स्वर्ग में है किसने बनाया चिड़ियों को किसने बनाया चिड़ियों को ईश्वर स्वर्ग में है किसने बनाया सितारों को किसने बनाया सितारों को ईश्वर स्वर्ग में किसने बनाया आपको मुझको ईश्वर स्वयं ने